Hi, welcome back, welcome to another Onkruid video, another one of these unedited Soulstone Survivors videos. I'm gonna play with the Houndmaster again today because he is the closest to prestige level 30 and maybe that's a little small intermediary milestone we could get to. I took some runes like purity and stuff so that our first hits are gonna be better. We're gonna be focusing on not applying debuffs this time around to make sure that that damage bonus keeps stacked up. Because if you don't know what the purity rune does, it means that we deal 50% extra damage, but that bonus is diminished for every negative effect the enemy has stacked on top of him, or that's at least my understanding of the rune. Maybe we can look at it for a little second. This bonus is reduced by 5% for each type of negative effect on the target, so that's at least how I kind of interpret that. Yeah, sure. If you get a legendary upgrade at the first little level, don't look a gifted horse into the mouth. Right, I think that's the expression. As you all know, or as people that watch some of my videos, of course, know, I try to include a whole bunch of those little sayings, those little quirky remarks in my speech. Leave a permanent trap in the ground that explodes. For the next 6 seconds, leave a trail. I think I'm gonna go for a little explosive build. And I'm gonna try to sit in the corner again a little bit. It has been a while. If we get multicast on these mines, I think that will also be very potent. Now I know that these apply burn, and that we don't necessarily want that because it diminishes the effectiveness of our purity rune. But I think that it might counterbalance each other in the long run when we actually get to the point where they hopefully just one-shot enemies, these little bombs. We are investing heavily into our buckshot ability, so we might not want to replace that this time around. Fire shield is always nice at the start on the Houndmaster, because if you didn't know, your hounds also get a little fire shield around them. We don't want any poison abilities. A ballista is perfect for this build, of course, because that doesn't apply any effects, it's just raw damage. We don't want to apply wound frailty, we want to deal more damage, so Leviathan is definitely the right fit, especially since we're already remaining in this corner. I have yet to experience the early access edition now by standing completely in the corner. And I feel like especially on these curse difficulties, it might be a little bit harder because with the purple meteors coming down from the sky and stuff, how much damage does that actually do? Let me stand in one. This is one, right? Only 6? We can stand in the corner all we want. Cluster bomb. Cluster bomb is gonna be perfect because I see that it doesn't apply anything. And bombs are always very nice. Not so nice for my frame rate and bit rate though, but that's definitely something that we just need to take into account. Static. That's definitely a damage upgrade we would like. Ooh. Multicast for static or multicast for the bombs? Oh, that's difficult. That's very difficult. I think I'm gonna go for bombs. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go for bombs because I mean, multicast ballista, I don't think I necessarily enjoy that all that much. I think multicast for the bombs is gonna be way more potent. Suction bomb, again, no effects applied, so that's definitely something we want in this build. Let's try and make it a quick one. Although if we really wanted to speedrun attempt again, I think we would be better off playing on the 0 curse difficulty, but mama didn't raise no pussy, you know? So we're playing on the higher curse difficulty. How have you guys been doing? I've been doing great. Just got out of a work call. Every 2 weeks, area of effect for the cluster bombs. I should have picked attack speed there probably. Every 2 weeks there's a team meeting with the entire team about a bunch of things. And then in the week in between, the week where there is no team meeting then, this applies a lot. This also applies quite a lot, but I would like to have another bomb. Bleed. Let's go with this for now, but maybe replace it in the future if we encounter something that does not actually apply any of those effects. Either way, got either the intervision call now. That's what happens in between the weeks where the team meetings happen. And it was interesting. I asked some questions myself. For example, a very interesting one. I work mostly with children and young people now. And my question... Which one do we want to get rid of? Not the cluster bomb, but do we want to get rid of the minefield or the explosive trap? I quite like this though. We don't want to get rid of buckshot, right? Or do we? Or do we? I think if we would want to get rid of something, we would probably get rid of something that applies burn. So let's get rid of minefield for now. Maybe it will come back to bite us in the ass, but I just don't want to apply any debuffs, you know. I want that purity buff in its full effect. I work with children and young people, and intake conversations are of course a very important part of the healthcare trajectory you start up, the healthcare journey you embark upon. It's very important that that intake conversation already leaves a good impression about what is happening to you and what people are gonna do together with you. If you do this, we're gonna keep explosive trap, or we should keep explosive trap, and I don't want to commit myself to that, so I'm gonna take magnetic. And then because they are so young, most of the time the parents actually make the decision to come here, or well, they sent us the email like, hey, I want to make an appointment for my child, so can we come along for an intake conversation? And that's all fine. And then most of the time the parent is with the kid in the intake context. They're in the room together. And my question was like, what is the main course of action here at this workplace? Because I haven't been working there all that long. So like, do we keep the parent in there, or do we kind of very politely, of course, kick the parent out because we only want to talk to the child? How does it happen? And apparently, haha, parents, we try to always keep the parent in there as well, because they, of course, have a bunch of different pieces of information than the child himself, him or herself. And I can definitely agree to that, but I asked the question because of a case I had last week where the child was like, you know, I actually would rather have my father leave the room. I think that would be easier for me. So that's already like a bit of a dilemma, right? Do we, oh damn, I shouldn't have picked that. Or well, I should have picked that. Cluster bomb is something we can always pick upgrades for, we should remember that. Because that kid was like, you know what, I would feel more comfortable if my dad would leave the room. And that of course puts you in a bit of a dilemma, puts you in a bit of a pickle. Are you gonna trust on the inner workings of your work spot that tells you that, you know, try to include the parents because that gives you a lot of information? You can also observe a lot more when there's also a parent in the room, because you can see where that parent damage increase for the statics or damage for the lasting. I think I want damage for the lasting because my Storm of Arrows is my favorite ability for now. Pardon me. Bombs, getting a bit mind flooded over here, because you can realize that you can observe rather when the parent comes in between in your conversation, when she or he, most of the time she, though most of the time it's the mom that comes with them, when she interrupts your conversation to speak her own mind, or to kind of in her point of view give a better view of what the child actually wants to say. Which is sometimes a bit of a false belief, I think, because sometimes maybe you don't know it better, but your child knows it better. And it's something I encounter difficulty with, because I am so used of my internship where we talked with students, so only people that were 18 or older, so no need to include the parents in most of those cases, unless if like it's a specific question regarding family therapy and stuff like that, but either way. And now I need to take into account this entire new perspective in the conversation, this entire third party, and I need to make sure that I keep up an alliance both with the child and with the parent. Whereas my normal approach from my experience in my internship would just be to have a conversation with just the child. But I guess for me personally it's still a little bit different, but because most of the time I will definitely still have conversations with a bit older people that are around that 16, 18 year mark, and those people are of course competent enough and well versed enough in their own mental struggles and general vocabulary to fare their own conversation with me. But either way, just it's a new way of doing this psychological work, you know, including that parent in the session. We talked about it in systemic therapy, which is a course I had for a while. That fact of keeping up alliances with every single member of the conversation, and it's one of the hardest parts. And I can definitely feel that, because when the child tells you, yeah, you know, part of my problem is that my parents never understand me, and then in the conversation with the child and the parent, you're gonna ask the parent about things, that child might be like, well, I just told you he or she doesn't understand what I'm going through, and now you're asking him or her what I'm going through, what's going on. So it's a difficult balance that I definitely still need to get used to. It's something I will get used to, because I see and I can feel the benefits of having a parent in that conversation as well, and that extra observational data that you can have then. For For some cases, it's also just necessary to have the parent in the room with you. For attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD, for example, it's very important most of the time to have the parent there, because you need to ask how the child was earlier in their young years. Were they already having problems with hyperactivity and attention deficits? And most of the time the child himself doesn't really remember or can't give that clear of an image of that, so it's very handy to have the parents in the session there. And of course, in this context, you will almost always need the parents to pay, because it's quite expensive, and I don't see one of those children paying their own bills at our workspace for now. But that's kind of awkward. That makes it kind of awkward, you know. Imagine this: you are a parent, you drop your kid off in a room with a stranger for 50 minutes, and then they come out and they're like, "Oh, you're still here, great. Can you give me 97.5 euros?" You know, that's it requires some trust in the healthcare system, and some trust in our practice, in the people that work in our practice. One revive popped. This boss, once you get caught in his whirlwind, you are in for a treat. And I'm not talking about a fun treat. No, you really need to get the hell out of there. Damn, I spawned a lot of ballistas at once. So yeah, it's definitely things that I still need to get accustomed to. But things that I will have to get accustomed to, because they're not going to change, you know. I'm not all of a sudden going to be introducing my own way of working with these children and never include the parents in my conversations. No, that's not going to happen. I need to kind of be Is he stuck on my ballistas? I think he got stuck on my ballistas. That's a nice little tip for you right there. You can get bosses stuck on your ballistas. Let's go for a little defensive upgrade, just one. Alright, but it's all interesting stuff, and I'm glad I asked it in the intervision, that I could clear it up with a very experienced worker in the center. And one of the people I estimate to be the most competent in the field of psychology and healthcare, because she really stands her ground and she knows what she's talking about, or at least it seems like it. So, very interesting stuff indeed. There were some other questions as well about diagnostics. The person was like, yeah, I'm starting up this trajectory with a 9-year-old child, and they are asking to have some tests to look into executive functions. What do you guys suggest? And on the field of diagnosing and stuff like that, and diagnostics and diagnostical research, there's still a lot to learn for me, definitely, because that was something that didn't get attention all that often in my previous internship. So it's definitely still a learning experience for me there. But I'm open for it, you know. I'm definitely excited to learn all about those new things. Me and the intern, or me and the volunteer that started together with me, are starting up our own diagnostical trajectory for a person with possible ADHD, so that's going to be very interesting indeed. And then later this day I'm headed over to the workplace as well. The intervision was just something online for an hour, or in this case half an hour, because there weren't that many questions this time around, and then the rest of the workday still follows. Although I'm gonna leave like half an hour or an hour earlier, because I have a job interview at another space later this evening. I'm still only working as a volunteer at the space where I am at right now, and when I actually start to be a valid and an actual contribution to their workforce, their work population, it might be half time if I want that. So 50% of my time will be devoted to this practice, and then I could still look for something else if I would want that, you know. And I'm still looking for other spaces that appeal to my fancy as much so much that I actually want to consider working at 2 spaces at once, you know. And that would be, I think there's a lot of benefits. There's also some caveats. You have to be careful that you don't start confusing cases, or that you don't breach ethical guidelines by taking patients from one practice to another practice, you know. And you have to get familiar with 2 different teams, 2 different procedures of working. It's all things to still worry about for me, but either way I'm looking forward to the intake. It's not my own intake conversation, no, to the job interview is what I meant to say, because it seemed like a very fun practice, one that definitely aligned with my values and who and what I want to be as a caretaker as well. So we'll see what that brings. And maybe then I can combine both workspaces, which would be cool. But I don't know if it's going to be possible. Remains to be seen. And what also remains to be seen is the next episode of this series. Because after now watching episode 11 in its entirety, you of course also want to watch episode 12 when that comes out. Thank you so much for watching. We're not going to reach level 30, are we? That sucks. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next one. In that next one, ooh, Alright. Dash mastery. Increase your dash speed, resulting in a longer distance traveled. And it only costs 1. That's beautiful. That can always fill up that extra slot that we have most of the time. Alright, great. Nice little upgrade. Next time around, we will probably play with the Houndmaster again, because I want to get this guy to level 30. And we will finally complete the last map, the second level of curses. And then we will move on to curse level 3, where we will get a whole bunch of more stuff, including new rare materials. Alright, that's probably going to be introduced later when we get more crafting recipes. I presume that they're also going to give the previous heroes like multiple different weapons, because this is still such a large open space. Either way, thanks a lot for watching. See you in the next one. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.